It is the middle of the summer, and traditionally, summer means marching band and drum corps season. Today, we're talking drum corps and an alumni corps on today's PMEA's Take Note podcast. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of PMEA's Take Note podcast. I'm Mark Despotakis, and it is summer, and so that means drum corps season, marching band seasons around the corner. We haven't done a podcast around those topics in a while, so we're changing that today. If you follow drum corps, the DCI season is underway, and one of the special things happening this year during DCI Finals Week is the Phantom Regiment, a long-story drum corps in the DCI world, and even before that, actually, is having an alumni corps. And if you've seen any of the coverage online, this looks to be a pretty amazing feat that they're going to pull off. So we're lucky to have a couple PMEA members with us who are going to participate in that alumni corps. And I'm going to bring them in right now. Joe Sensor and Kristina Andrei. Guys, thanks for joining us. So, and you're also decked out in the Phantom Regiment shirts, which I totally appreciate. Like I love it. I love it. You're all set. Okay, so let's just level set right from the get-go before we get into this whole alumni corps and the whole Phantom thing. I just would tell us a little bit about yourself for those who might not know you, your background in music education, what you're currently doing. Joe, you want to start?
Sure. I've been teaching music band mostly in north central Pennsylvania since 1997. So I taught in Elk County for a while at Elk County Catholic and at Ridgeway. And then I've been in the Du Bois area school district since 2006. So I'm doing middle school band right now. So I have a 5 through 8. We're a 5 through 8 building. So I am the band director for those 4 grades.
All right, Kristina.
Yeah, so my, musical journey is a little bit different than Joe's right now. But, I started playing pretty young, piano and flute and all of that in high school. And then eventually, I kind of switched to the French horn and the brass world. And so that's how I kind of discovered drum corps, which led me to 11 years of marching band. And so I recently just attended IUP for my undergrad degree in music ed with a minor in hospitality. And I just completed my master's degree in wind band conducting. So now I finally have a job as a high school band director at United in the Indiana County area. And I'm super excited to start that part of my teaching career.
Fantastic. All right. I love it. All right. So let's go back in time a bit. You both marched Phantom Regiment. Obviously, that's why you're in the alumni corps. I'm curious if you tell us a little about the journey of why Phantom Regiment. What was the reason that you did that? What was that experience like? I mean, I'm imagining they're pretty different experiences.
Oh yeah. Well, I can start, chronologically speaking. And I have to always kind of remind my students and my own kids about this, that how different things were in the pre-internet, pre-social media, pre-YouTube era. And drum corps was still very popular, but you really had to go in person. And so I was fortunate enough. I grew up in Erie, and we had a drum corps show, long-running drum corps show that they had up there. And actually the people that organized it were involved with my high school band, and I went to Cathedral Prep. So being a private school, didn't really have we didn't have a feeder program, so we were just all kind of dragging in whoever we could for our band program. And my brother has kind of convinced me to join, so I did. And being involved in the band, we would help out with the drum corps show every year. And we would always try to go. And so we got to see, a lot of the big name corps. And then, of course, the hoarded videotapes that would be passed around, you get together and watch either the PBS broadcast or whatever. So that was pretty much it. And, a couple of my friends had marched with Blue Coats, which isn't too far from Erie. And then I had another kid in my band that I think he filled a spot with the Crossmen for the back end of their season. And then for a while, there was a corps just across in Ontario called Dutch Boy that actually was kind of on the up and up. And so there were quite a few kids from our band that did that. So there were some other people that had done it, and I was kind of reaching my last couple of years of eligibility. And there was a senior corps in Erie, I did a little bit with. So I'd gotten to play a G bugle because that was, still G bugle era. So I'd had my hands on one and knew how it worked and knew the basics of it. And I think 94 season, I was just about ready to go off and try some audition camps. And I think my grandfather passed away or something like that. And so it just kind of put a damper on it, and I just didn't pursue it. So 95 came along. It was my last year of eligibility. I'm like, okay, I really want to do this. So at the shows, they would pass out, like, it was a newspaper, literally a DCI newspaper that had contact info for all the corps in it. And so I think I just called, at some point during the fall, called Phantom Regiment's office and said, hey, can I get an audition packet? And they, sent it through snail mail. Again, no email really at the time. And, just read through it and like, here's the date, found a bus ride and got out there and started going to camps and eventually got a spot. So it was, very, like I said, very, very different. No websites, no emailed PDF packets. You really had to do a little more work back in the day to do it. But I managed to get in and had a really, really cool season.
Kristina, I feel like he's kind of like throwing you under the bus. Like it was just so much harder for him when he did it because there was no internet and, so, all right, Kristina, give us your version of your story, that was obviously way easier than Joe's to get in, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think starting band so young too, I didn't even know that drum corps existed. My band director marched Glassman, and I knew a few other techs that I have that marched, like Crossman and Spirit and that kind of thing. So I was kind of a little late to the game, I guess, maybe in my late high school days. But even before seeing any corps in person, after I learned about the activity, I would do the typical fan thing of watching the countless lot video warm-ups and the performances. And I think maybe that's before flow marching, but the GoPro videos then became popular, which I just adored. And of course, attending the movie theater for the premiere when they started doing that. So that's kind of where I started, maybe like my sophomore year of high school, maybe freshman. And so not long after that, during that time, Phantom actually became, I would watch them on the field more than any other corps. So I loved how they carried themselves on and off the field. But fortunately enough, a few years later, so in 2016, they were actually housed at my high school. And so I couldn't believe it. It was like a dream, 16, 15-year-olds, just imagination coming true. And so after seeing them in person, I just instantly fell more in love with them, and just the activity in general. So I was fortunate enough to also know one of the percussion members. He was teaching me because I was in indoor drumline. So staying there and seeing him just like have the passion for just performing in general, that stay was a little bit extra special for me. And just seeing that like this is something that is possible from people that I do know. So my journey was a little different too, but I didn't start out at Phantom. I first marched Mellophone, but I started with the Raiders in 2018. They're from New Jersey. And then I moved my senior year into 2019 with the Legends. They're from Michigan. So these open class groups kind of just, they fit my schedule at the time. Things were clearly a little bit different. And so I was trying to do all these high school things, still just be a kid too. And so it really gave me the confidence, I think, and prepared me for my dream goal, which of course was always Phantom. And then COVID hit. So I'm kind of in this kind of awkward situation. So I just kind of like threw myself out there for the 2021 season. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. This might be the only chance that I ever get to perform with them. Again, I was also coming up on the age out year. So my own. So I realized that I'm not going to take any performance or audition moment for granted. And that season was just like so special and memorable. Just getting to perform the 2003 show, the history in itself, and just like taking that into our bringing it back to a classic and adapting it to our era was just a phenomenal experience. And, we had our own hardships with this, like, we couldn't always have people watching our rehearsals and like doing all that kind of stuff. So it was fun at the end of the season being in Lucas Oil and performing for an audience that, some of them weren't even born to see the show yet. And so knowing that we're performing for an audience that might be experiencing even for like the 100th time, it was really, really cool to see all that we achieved. And that was kind of like a pivotal year, I feel like, for the organization. It really felt like we honored the passion and the performance of just the activity and organization to create something memorable for every decade. And it's still talked about today. And then kind of following that year in 22, this was my age out year. We were back to normal competition and traveling and, the day-to-day life. We still had a little bit of COVID struggle in there, but they really did a fantastic job of trying to get everything back to normal. So the show, to me was very unique. And it kind of followed like this adventure of life, and it might make us leave home, but it never kind of leaves us. We always might come back. So that year, it kind of unexpectedly over the years became one of the more meaningful things that I've been part of, especially in a show sense. And I think it really captures like my feelings for especially the Alumni Corps now, and how in that time of my life, I considered Phantom to kind of be my home. And now getting to relive this home feeling all over again is also just super, super special. So
yeah, I love that. We're gonna dive into the Alumni Corps in a minute, but a couple more questions. I'm curious after hearing both of your stories, and because I'm sure you've watched Phantom shows from all time. Like, what's your favorite show? Is it the year you marched? Is it another year?
I guess go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, well, I mean, the '90s was a really cool time, and they had a lot of like, I know Phantom Voices, and then 93, 94, 94 especially, like there was some really, really cool music that year. And I think, yeah, that's the year that they put the pit on the field, which is always like a little different. Any of those little different moves would always kind of get your mind going a bit. And a lot of the more complex music, especially like the classically inspired stuff. That was a very, very classically inspired era. And that's kind of, I mean, it's really neat because with the Alumni Corps too, it's kind of like they're really, really hitting, both of the conductors from my year are up there on the podium. And, 96, of course, was the year, like that's the first year that they won or tied, depending on how you look at it. And that, it's pretty cool, like being in the lead up to that year too. It was a neat experience. But yeah, I really like that era. And I know I'd have to go back and look for sure, but I'm sure I saw like some of those shows live. And that's really what kind of hit it in my mind as far as wanting to, take a shot and march with that particular group. So that's, really, really good era, right from like 91 to like 94.
Okay. Kristina?
Yeah. Yes, mine's a little bit more relevant, more of like the 2008 kind of 13 era. And I've had like some of the staff, especially from 2008, they were teching me at the time. So I think, again, hearing like their history, it's really cool, like knowing that I'm talking to somebody and they're teaching me from a show that, I watched online, again, that I never thought that I would see in person, or even like these people are like famous to me. And you're talking to me just like a regular person. It's like, this is insane. As a young adult, it's something that you like never dream of. But the music sense of it, I think it's like now being a little bit of an educator, understanding like the combination of the music and like how it is so impactful is just super cool looking at it now.
Yeah, I'll just throw mine in. It was Spartacus, and I just, that was the year that the championships was in Bloomington because Lucas Oil Stadium was not ready on time, and I was there, and I remember watching the show in the press box. But what I really remember is the encore, standing in the stands watching the encore, and the place was still full, and just the emotion for that show. So. That's mine. But okay. As you look back at your time marching and being in Phantom, and even, Kristina, you in other corps. How do you feel that experience has shaped you as a musician, as an educator? Are there takeaways that you have that now you're incorporating into what you're doing now, or what you will be doing teaching?
I mean, I'll go ahead and start. I mean, it especially like my first couple jobs, especially very small programs, so I really have to kind of couch myself as far as like how much are these kids ready for. Also, like having very little help, because that's like Kristina had mentioned, that's a huge part of the levels of success that some of the corps, and then some of your more competitive band programs. There's a lot of staff involved, and there's a very specific process, working through like the hierarchy of where the tech's on the field, and then working your way up to however they're running the block. But as much of that rehearsal process as I could try to work in to make sure that they're being as efficient as possible, and really very like micro focused on what you're working on with any particular segment when you're rehearsing. That's kind of the biggest takeaway that I took from it, was just how, just super uber focused you had to be to really reach levels of excellence. And the other side of it too is just that knowledge that like this is something, the kids in my bands in that point in my career and the kids that were marching drum corps, obviously there's a couple years difference, but like I would tell them, I'd be like, look, the bands that are doing well, and these super competitive groups, they've got the same basic DNA as you guys. There's nothing fundamentally different about those kids and you guys in your band. Like you can get there. It just takes that level of focus and that level of work that you can get to those higher levels of achievement. It just you've got to really work, and you can get there. And that's the biggest thing for me, is that it's doable for kids.
Yeah, I think piggybacking off of that too, I'm kind of reliving some memories I have. I remember staying at Du Bois my age out year, and I remember you having band camp, and they were all kind of at the front of the school, like, and I could tell there was a little kind of mind switch from your students whenever we showed up, and we were just eating breakfast, and they were just in awe of us just staying there. And I think as almost being someone that is that age, I think it was really, really cool just to see how much like they wanted to impress us. And so, like you said, it is possible for them to get there. And I just thought that was so cool. I just remembered that memory.
Well, and I definitely remember, and well, your years, it was much more like they didn't really let people get close. I think there was literally like, they're like, do not approach. They had signs. Yeah. But I know like when I marched the high school band kids, it was especially, I think it was a little jarring because that was the year that we switched to black uniforms. So I think it made it even more jarring and intimidating. But I mean, the way that those high school kids, band kids at the shows, when you come back in afterwards and, you'd be wearing either half uniform for the retreat, because we did full retreats back then too, every show pretty much. So, we would usually, because we'd perform towards the end, we were usually at least in half uniform. So the kids would always, and just that level of like, wow. I'm like, well, I mean, we're good, but like, we're not like mutants or something, it's just that level of focus and work and you can achieve some of this. You can do it.
I love that. So now let's get into the Alumni Corps. So, I mean, it's an overly broad question, a silly question, but like, why did you decide to do this? This is like, because to be clear, like, it's not just you're going to show up one night and perform. Right. I mean, there's some pieces to the puzzle here. It's some work. Why did you decide to do this, and what does it mean to you to be part of it?
Well, I think for me, it was kind of a sweet spot, because doing middle school band and not doing high school band, because I know, I think we'd mentioned before we started, that we were thinking of some other people that are PMEA people, band, music teachers in Pennsylvania that were Phantom Regiment alumni, but aren't, they're not doing the alumni corps. I do think it's got to be really, really tough for the high school band people because DCI finals falls like really in a lot of bands, at least in Pennsylvania, because of our school schedule, are doing camp right around that time. So it's got to be, that's one thing is like not doing high school band, and also my kids being a little bit older, kind of being out of that age range where maybe they, we have like family vacations or things like that planned. It allowed me a little more flexibility, and I'll be honest too, like the money side of it, it does cost. And so luckily, I was able to handle that side of it as well too, and the travel and things like that. So for me, it kind of fell in a sweet spot, I think, of my age. If I had been, in an earlier stage of my career, it might have been a tougher go for me with scheduling and everything.
Yeah, I definitely think with the scheduling part. Now, thankfully, my band camp is the week after, so I got really lucky there.
Yeah.
But I mean, my major decision too was I worked at the fan shop for the merchandise team for the last 2 years. So while I was in grad school, it was kind of a nice like reunion for me to see familiar faces. So like getting to travel and work with, the admin team and the different side of it, the side that usually the members never see. It was so cool. And just knowing that that's how they make every year possible is so fun. But we started advertising for the Corps. I didn't even know what was happening. They were like, put this sign up, put this out there. And we're like, okay, great. And then the more we read it, it was like, oh, this is like 2 or 3 years in the making. So, like alumni would come up and they would start talking to us about like their personal stories, and future members of just saying, how much can you tell this section leader that I love them so much? Or, I love the drum major, tell them I say hi. And we're like, yeah, okay. Like all of these great conversations with all these people. So it just got me thinking one day, just sitting at a show, like selling things. It was like, why wouldn't I want to be part of this? I don't know if I'm going to make it work, but right now I can do it. And, I think just it's more than a reunion. And I just feel like it is really once in a lifetime opportunity for us to all march maybe one last time together. Who knows when this will happen again.
And so the one time together is it's at semifinals.
Yeah.
Am I correct? Okay, so it's Friday night of DCI Championships week. So let's start talking about some of like the actual rehearsal. Like you guys, there's been some camps to rehearse this, and what is it, like 500 people? Is that the number I heard somewhere in that area?
560.
560,
I believe. Yeah.
Okay, coming together to rehearse, put this whole thing together, and then perform for that one time, at semifinals. So tell me about from your perspective, what is this rehearsal and reunion process been like with fellow alumni, and just what are your thoughts on just like, I'm sure there's some emotion attached to doing all of that as well. Tell me about the process so far.
Well, there were 2 camps. They did a Texas camp and they did a Rockford camp, and you were supposed to go to one or the other of those 2. And I think I think we both went to the Rockford camp. You didn't go to the Texas camp, I don't think. I think there were a few people that went to both, but so it was required that you go to one or the other of the 2 camps. Of course, we got music a while ago. They did send some drill out in advance, so you could look at it. And they've been sending, we're using good old Slack, and there's videos for like marching style and just general things. There are, and that's something I've been interested. It's interesting. There are people that I was talking to that said the last time they played was the last note they played at finals, when the year they marched, some maybe 20 years ago. So there were some people that had not been playing, and so they've been giving some extra, getting back into shape on your instrument kind of stuff. And of course, just general fitness stuff, trying to get us moving and working on that part of it. Because I mean, as much as like I'm 53, there are people. I don't know. I know they said there were people from the 60s for sure, possibly, farther back. So, I mean, there are definitely some folks in this group that are, well into their late 70s or 80s even. So it's a big group, and that, you know, that's basically it. I mean, we were told to have music memorized by the camp, and I think, you know, from what that didn't seem to be too big of a deal for people. So it's just kind of been a lot of individual preparation, and then the camps, and then we'll get together in Indy. I think we have to be at rehearsal Tuesday, like noon or something like that, I think, and then we're rehearsing all day Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then of course Friday is performance day.
Yeah, I mean, let me just read it before you go, Kristina. Let me just read one thing. Like, there's drill with this. This is not just coming out on the field and playing, and obviously you're not using flip folders to play. I mean, this is memorization plus moving, which I just can't wait to see 560 people on the field, like just how that even works. But this is a lot. So, okay, Kristina, your perspective.
Yeah, no, I think it's been so fun, and as soon as we got to Rockford, I've stayed at that school before, both as a member and, you know, at working fan shop. So it felt like no time has passed. And then I started seeing more and more people, and I'm sure Joe can relate to this, but it was just like, what year are we in? Because it really, it didn't feel like there felt like no generational gaps at all. And I think it's more because of like the foundation that was set, and the passion and the work ethic that was there, has been for all of these years. It just really helped like honor a lot of everything that the people before us have put together. And, you know, we talked about music and what we were playing. I mean, I don't know if we're allowed to say any of it, but I think it's a lot of Phantom's history that I've never got to experience. And so like playing these popular pieces, I'll just say, and learning drill at the same time with, you know, people that I've looked up to that have paved maybe the way for both Joe and I. You know, I think it's even more special knowing that what we are doing is helping the future members as well. And, you know, the PH family part always comes back at the end of the day. And, you know, you never know who you're going to meet from the activity just in the real world, or wearing this shirt. And people are like, oh, I know exactly what that is. And we're like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And just knowing all of those things is just connected to that, you know, that home feeling is just an awesome way of everything that's going on for this year.
Does this just feel like a family reunion?
It does.
Yeah.
I was curious if there were like stories being shared generation to generation.
Oh yeah. Well, and my situation is interesting because you know, I went right from marching into teaching high school band within a year or so. So I really did not have a lot of time in my life for a long time to do much other than watch online and occasionally get to a show. But anybody that I marched with, you know, you got to kind of like subtract 20 plus pounds and add some hair. Like, wait a second. I think you know, so that was a lot of fun too. Meeting a few people and you know, getting those connections there. And we are going to do like by year pictures and, you know, things like that.
Oh, cool, yeah.
Fun because we have all day Wednesday at Lucas Oil. I mean, not all day, but we have like a block. We have a rehearsal block there. Just because, I mean, you've been there and it's a very different sound being in a closed stadium. So that's always a little bit of extra work. And it is a huge spread on the field. I can at least send you like maybe one page from the drill just so you can get an idea of it. And it is like just playing in a group of that size, you know, there's some college bands up into that size range. And I'm sure they run into the same problem that, you know, you just have so much of a spread and the instruments you have to figure out exactly where you're listening and where you're watching. And you know, that's going to take some pretty serious work that, you know, as much as it's cool to have a group of this size, it adds a lot of extra work to it to get it to really come together and sound right. So that's really, you know, we already started on that at the camp, but I mean, that's going to be, you know, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of focus on that.
Sure.
Yeah, the other day I was watching some of the videos that were put into Slack, and I'm kind of at the back of the field where my drill spot is, and like I didn't realize what was going on even 10 feet in front of me. And so I'm watching this video and I'm like, wow, like we sound really good.
Oh yeah. And it's just
no idea when you're in it.
Oh yeah, that's a big thing there is like even just being on the back end of the horn, and probably mellophone it's even more so because you've got that big bell and it really, knowing like, okay, what do I sound like on this end versus this end? And that's where that top of the box ensemble work is so critical. And like it was really cool to be back in that stage of it where it's just micro managed as far as like, okay, here's the instruction, here's the comment, the drum majors repeat it back, and then boom, it happens. It's just like that, being back on that level of focus and rehearsal was a really cool thing.
Oh yeah, I felt that immediately as soon as we had our Friday night rehearsal. We were all in a big circle with multiple circles,
Yeah.
and we're all just like playing at each other, and
Mhm.
we're helping each other out and like
Mhm.
kind of joking around and talking about a lot of stuff, and it's just reliving all of those rehearsal days are just it
Mhm.
was just so fun.
We've seen some other corps do alumni
Mhm.
corps like this, and I just wonder if like there's now like this competition because like, well, the troopers did it this way, and so we've got to one up them. So I'm just wondering if that's in the psyche of all of this as well. I'm guessing it is.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I think
Okay.
so. How could it not be? I mean, I guess that's the thing.
A little bit of competition.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, do you think that you'll find ways to use this experience as you then start the school year, as you like specifically the alumni corps experience? Are there ways that you think you're going to be able to use this as kind of a teaching tool or in some teaching way with your students?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just nice to, I think the lifelong musicianship is a big piece that we should always be, trying to work on, and making sure that, when the kids leave our program, that they're continuing on, that they're still playing, that they're finding these opportunities, whether it's a community band or, whatever sort of things are going on, just to try to keep going, since it is such a shame when they just kind of stop with music at whenever they leave our program and move on to the next level. So, I mean, I think to let them know, hey, look, I can do this, I can handle this. You can handle it when you're older, or just keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think on the other side of that too, as a, starting educator in public
Mhm.
school, I've played in a lot of like musicals and things like that, and I've found even in the drum corps scene too, I feel like it shows a lot of like the educator of that. Even though our performance time is so small, that like we can show the students that it's never over, and just feeling that satisfaction of like understanding and reminding that like, oh, this is what they're going through. And those are some things that I'm just feeling recently, just kind of like moving away from the performer side, but like showing them that we can have those opportunities like a university band or something like that is just like a big reminder, I think, as an educator and upcoming teacher, that there are opportunities everywhere. You might not never know where they are, but you talk to the right person, you have the right friend, and they reach out at the right time, like things will work out. And I think this is definitely one of those experiences for us that we can show our students that this is a opportunity for us, and we're going to take it and run.
Well, Joe and Kristina, this has been fascinating to hear about your time marching and all through this process. And we will all be watching during finals week, specifically Friday night semifinals. If you're not tuned in, get Flow Marching, and you can tune in and watch the performance. And we'll look forward to social media posts and photos. I'm sure you guys will have all that.
I do have one more thing, if
please.
you don't mind. So a really, really cool thing that's happening in the next few weeks is that Phantom will be rehearsing at IUP on August 2nd. So Sunday, August 2nd. So if you have any students that want to come out this way, Joe, I think that'll be a great education way. And, they'll put their best on and, maybe meet some.
So what they're at, like at the university then?
Yep.
Okay. Awesome.
Stadium. Yep.
That's and I would encourage anyone watching to, as you look where the DCI shows are, find where, even if it's not Phantom, find where a corps is rehearsing. It is an incredible educational experience for students, but it's for all of us just to go and see and watch that rehearsal and the intensity. And to your point earlier, Joe, of how do we break it down into such small pieces and then build it back up? It's really an incredible thing to pay attention to for rehearsal process.
When in open class corps, like you had marched with, it's a really great experience. My daughter marched with 7th Regiment out of Connecticut a couple years ago. And it's very, very attainable for high school students at any level. Even if your band is not, a traditional competitive band, I mean, you can absolutely get involved with open class. And then there's all age. We've got our Reading Buccaneers. Like I don't know how many how many championships they have in the all age world, but they're a fabulous group. And there's definitely within a reasonable drive of Pennsylvania, there's quite a few open class and all age groups that could definitely would love to have some members.
Yeah, it's great recommendations, guys. And again, appreciate your time, and we're looking forward to you doing this, and good luck as this progresses here in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us. And thank you all for being with us on this edition of PMEA's Take Note Podcast. We will see you next time.